thought this was going to be a tough high-rise job. Never in my wildest imagination did I think this building was going to come down. I really believed in my heart that we were here to save people, not to carry our purpose out.
So we just had the three blasts from the horn. Which building was that in relation to?
I believe it was the hotel across the street, but I'm not positive.
Can you explain to us a little bit from a firefighter's perspective what your mission is when those initial crashes happen? Your mission is to go up inside. If most people can't understand.
Well, yeah, we have to go in. There were people jumping, unfortunately, and we have to go in and remove the people as best we can. We risk our lives to save the lives of other people. I never would have imagined the structure of the World Trade Center has been, for most of my life, the World Trade Center has been there, and I just could never imagine that coming down. We thought we were going in to save people. We never thought that. I mean, naturally, there's always a risk in our job, but we never in our lives thought that 2 towers of the World Trade Center would come down.
They mentioned before that the space is so confined and so small, and you cannot put huge amounts of manpower into that. Obviously, full resources on the fire department around the nation, around the country can't just get in there. Is that one of the difficulties?
Well, I think you have a tremendous number of people that want to work, and you have to have, you know, there's only a few people that can actually work in the confined space, and then other people have to, you know, there are many jobs that have to be done. Not all of them are crawling into the spaces, and all of it is vitally important. And again, I'd like to thank the steel workers and all of the trades that have come here and volunteer tremendous amounts of their time, because without them we couldn't do this job.
But obviously there's a great number of people who just want to get in there and start moving rubble, and that's not physically possible.
I'll tell you the truth, everybody comes here with enthusiasm, but everybody's willing to do whatever needs to be done to accomplish our mission.
Where's the main level of power? Can you orient us?
It's hard to say. They're approaching it. It's a 4-sided approach at this point because there's so much rubble. And, you know, everybody's working as hard as they can, and we just want to get our guys out. You know, it's one of those things that there's some great firemen died in there, and the knowledgeable fire officers, tremendous men, and, you know, I really can't describe the sorrow that all of us feel. It's terrible.
Is there any way you can describe the delicate nature in which the Millennium Hotel is at this stage?
Well, they look at it, they use a survey as transit, and apparently somebody picked up a little bit of a list in the building, but I don't really have too much information on that.
So for our records, you give us your name, please?
I'm Captain John Sullivan.
This is from
I'm from the Bureau of Fire Prevention. This 4-5 in Washington.
Sorry, this structure right here is
Out
part
of
of
4-5 in Washington.
this structure right here is part of one of the towers. The metal
Which
that's
one?
right there.
Yes.
And it fell over. Did that fall over from the beginning, or was that?
Well, yeah, both towers pancaked. You know, it's the far one went first, and then the one closest to us fell down. When the closest one to us fell down, I was about, like I said, half a block away helping somebody. You heard the rumble, the whole world turned black for about 10 minutes. I just stopped and you just say a prayer. You didn't know what was going to happen and how you were going to make it out of there. And then once we were able to get around, we removed the injured lieutenant and continued on with the search. Again, like I said, it's one of the few people I know that removed somebody alive is Lieutenant May.
Lieutenant May?
Yeah, this is Lieutenant May right here.
Okay, thank you, fellas.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, fellas.
As a producer of ours talking with that officer, we don't know his name, the firefighter, and we cannot imagine how difficult the work is down there. But as you look at the pictures with us, and we're seeing them for the first time with you, you get a tremendous sense of the devastation. You get a tremendous sense of the work that needs to be done, why this operation is so complicated, why it's going to take so long. Michael Oku has been down in it all day long. Michael, come on, chime in here. Tell me what you're seeing right now. Is there still a lot of concern about these buildings?
Yes, Aaron, there is definitely a lot of concern, and as I look at this, I can imagine why the rescue workers have such concern. I tell you, I've been here all day. My colleagues have been here now for pushing way past 48 hours, and every 3 or so hours or so is a new take on the surrealism of this scene. These are our first shots from this particular vantage point, which is just slightly due north and west of what was, again, the World Trade Center. That's a phrase that I keep using today. You can see the center of this picture here as helicopters fly overhead, the smoldering wreckage from this site. Obviously, that first bit of pile of rubble, which is quite high, is what was the North Tower. And just to the south of that, that would be to your screen right, is what was the South Tower, both just, again, a heaping pile of rubble that now workers, their rescue workers, have carted well over 300,000 tons of out of this area. Just to the left of this, or to the north of what was the North Tower, you can see the skeletal remains, really, of the Vista Hotel, which was, again, it's a building that from this vantage point looks black, slightly shrouded in smoke, and in fact, every so often you can see a new gust of smoke coming up from that. That was a building that was sustained some serious damage back when the World Trade Center was, the bombing of the World Trade Center back in 1993. Now just the skeletal remains of it. Just behind that, I'm not quite sure how cameras can pick it up, but again, shrouded in the smoke is where 5 World Trade Center would be, and that's a building that there's a lot of speculation about what's going on with that, concern that it has sustained a lot of structural damage to that. And I want to just sort of pan a little bit to the right here, or to the west. You can see in what was a street, in the middle of that street, you can see a structure that connects, again, what was the Vista Hotel to the right of our picture, to the west. And that is a bridge that connected much of the traffic from the World Trade Center, from the 2 towers, I should say, over to the World Financial Center. Rescue workers and some structural engineers mentioned to us today that they actually purposely took down that structure because it was so uneven and obviously not firm, and they didn't want to cause any more damage and cause too much more risk to the rescue workers there. And just moments ago, I don't know whether our camera can pick it up now, I don't really see it anymore, but you could see flames sort of shooting out every so often, and they looked like they were flames produced by welding machines. Obviously, they're trying to, one must speculate that what they're doing is they're trying to make this area as comfortable as possible for the rescue workers, and they're trying to parcel out as much of this wreckage and get it out of here so that there's much more room for the workers to maneuver. Just to the right of that, this tall building to the right, which again I mentioned was the World Financial Center, the home of American Express, a beautiful building down here in Lower Manhattan. Some engineers were telling us that this is a building that has some major questions as well. In fact, they went so far as to tell us that they are very concerned, you can see the beautiful glass on it, that some of this glass is not safe, and they may very well have to remove, if you can imagine this, each single one of those windows for fear of having those windows fall on their own and therefore cause even more damage and injury to the people who are working the scene.
Michael, I'm going to interrupt you here, okay? The pictures are extraordinary. The FBI is briefing now in Pennsylvania, and we want to take that.
Right is Dr. Dennis Dirkmaat, professor of anthropology at Mercyhurst College. To my left is Coroner Miller from Somerset County. Something I want to correct right off the bat. There were some discrepancies, and for my part of it, I apologize. There was no military involvement in what happened here. I believe I might have misspoke with concerning potential for a bomb on the plane, and if that was the case, then I apologize for that, but there was no military involvement. I hope that ends that line of questioning, and we can move forward with other issues. The other issue that came up this morning that I want to address is there was some concern regarding the locations of Indian Lake, the distance from the scene, the crime scene, and also New Baltimore. Indian Lake is approximately 2.5 miles. The entire lake is approximately 2.5 miles from the crime scene, the actual site of the crime scene. New Baltimore is approximately 8 miles from the crime scene. At the outset of this investigation, the Indian Lake was a part of that crime scene that was staked off by the Pennsylvania State Police. Early this morning, it was discovered that there was some debris in New Baltimore. There was a question at the 10:30 news conference regarding whether it was feasible that debris from a crash at this location could travel 8 miles. After review this morning by both the NTSB and the FBI, they reviewed what was found at the New Baltimore site. They determined that it was all things that would, very light materials such as paper, nylon, thin nylon, and things that would, if in the air with a wind, would easily blow. Researching what was going on with the wind and the location at the time of the plane going into the ground, there was a 9-knot wind in a southeasterly direction. Both Indian Lake and New Baltimore are southeast of the crime scene at that 2.5 miles and 8 miles. According to the NTSB, not only is it plausible that debris from this crash could be in both these locations, it is probable that this stuff is debris from the crash that we've been talking about for the last couple of days. There's no evidence has been uncovered as of yet of any other second plane or of anything else being, or of a second crash or of any other plane being involved. And as I mentioned earlier, there's absolutely unequivocally, there's no military involvement in the plane going down. We did have an incident earlier today regarding a breach of security that I'd like the Major to address at this time.
Pennsylvania State Police continue our task of maintaining security at this crime scene. Shortly after 2 o'clock, we had 2 members of the media talk to our troopers and request that they take photographs in an area that we would have permitted photographs to be taken. They were told to specifically park in the field, but that under no circumstances were they attempt to cross that field or walk down the dirt road that was there. The trooper began to walk away, looked back. They were headed across the field towards the dirt road. They were immediately arrested, handcuffed, and they were being arraigned at a district justice office. From information that we obtained, we believe there are what you call stringers from New York City. I cannot stress enough, this is a crime scene. Not only is this a crime scene, this right now is a temple burial yard for those victims. We must maintain the integrity of that scene. Thank you.
Briefing by the FBI, the state police in Pennsylvania, the coroner of Somerset County there as well, on the situation surrounding the crash of the plane in Pennsylvania on Tuesday. A quick note, and we'll move along here. The Coast Guard has said that it will reopen New York Harbor to limited commercial traffic today. One small sign, I guess, that normal returns, or at least slowly returns. It is not nearly normal at the New York Armory. Families are gathered there, families of many of the people who are missing still around the Trade Center site. Our Elizabeth Cohen is there, and she joins us now. Elizabeth.
Aaron, what you see behind me is a line of hundreds of people. All of them are missing relatives, and they're standing in line here to give information about their relatives to authorities. Authorities want to know everything about them. They also want dental records in case they need to identify bodies. They also want blood samples from close relatives in case they need to match DNA. I've never seen anything like this here. Families are handing out flyers to the media, hoping for some news on their relatives. Here, for example, Paul Ortiz is missing. He was on the 107th floor of the first tower, 10-month-old baby Rebecca. Darren Bohan was on the 102nd floor. Katie